Thank you, Chairman, and I'm sorry to pick on you, Dr. Diesel, but I also want to follow up on the studies. I didn't know that's where my colleague was going to take you. How many of your studies you talk about did multi-regression analysis?
Most of the 50 studies that I've been referring to used multiple regression analysis, meaning they controlled for many other
Yeah, I know what it means. And you mentioned the word association as opposed to statistically difference. So did any of these have a statistical difference, or were they all just associations?
Most of the studies observed statistically significant associations, meaning an increased risk of
Well,
health
that's two different. You're the epidemiologist, but those are two different terms from a study to say there's an association versus statistical difference, meaning two standard deviations outside of the mean.
Most of the studies did observe statistically significant.
Then what in your testimony did you use the word just associated?
Just trying to use simple terms.
Okay, all right. Well, that's helpful. So much of this is done with religion as opposed to science, so we're trying to see where we can agree on the science. Dr. Gary, for you, you're the economist here. Two of the tax benefits that are often talked about are the percentage depletion allowance and the intangible drilling cost. If we eliminated those, how would they impact someone like Exxon or Shell, Chevron, some of those big oil companies?
Marginally. I think every study, if you look at the full suite of tax expenditure subsidies, have only a marginal effect on promoting production. So it would increase their tax bill for sure, but as far as production and prices go, it would have a de minimis effect.
So my understanding that the folks that benefit from these, from the bottom line, are the small producers like in Kansas making 5 or 10 barrels per day, and that these larger companies don't benefit from them. So I think that's a common misconception, and I think it's so important for national security that we have more than 4 big oil companies making oil and gas for this world, and that these small oil producers need those to stay in business. I want to talk about methane for a second as well, and probably go back to Dr. Diesel. A third of the methane produced in this country is from wetlands and about 20% from city landfills. You spoke about methane in particular. Did your studies take that into account? Were these locations close to some type of wetlands or to city landfills as well?
Thank you for the question. Actually, my studies did not focus on methane. My studies focused on more of the hazardous emissions coming from oil and gas sites. Methane contributes to climate change, so in that sense it's hazardous, but my studies looked at the more immediate consequences of exposures to toxic.
But certainly methane is one of the major concerns for greenhouse gases from the oil and gas industry. Certainly oil and gas industry needs to own that about a third of them do come from the oil and gas industry, but a third of them come from wetlands as well. So are you suggesting we should, bulldoze in the wetlands too? It's a rhetorical question. I shouldn't have asked it as well. So often in this world we live in D.C., we try to think about the environment in different perspectives. And certainly I just want the chairman to know, my friends across the aisle, that I want to leave this world cleaner, healthier, and safer than we found it. But also we need to think about affordability and reliability when it comes to energy as well. That this administration's policies have been an attack on certainly American energy, it's been an attack on American agriculture, and it's been an attack on the hardworking Americans as well. When we see grocery prices going up 20–25%, energy cost, oil and gas utility cost as well going up over 30%. That's an attack on hardworking Americans. So I guess my question is, when we make policies, do we ever think about the affordability and the reliability of energy as well? I think I'll just leave it there. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Question was rhetorical. You're not seeking an answer from any of the witnesses. The question was rhetorical, just to be clear.
No, it's not rhetorical. I think I'm just out of time and trying to be respectful of our time. Thank you.
I think next up is Senator